Hey guys, it's Lori. I'm going to be recording these shorter episodes each week. I'm calling them health bites. My goal is with these mini episodes that I'm going to give you, just quick 20-minute or less, little teaching to help you understand different aspects of health, and understand what the heck is going on with your body, especially if you are an ambitious woman or mom, in her 30s or 40s. Of course, you can fall outside of that demographic. You could be in your 20s or your 50s, or maybe you're not a mom, whatever. You can still, the things that I'm going to be teaching still apply to you. They even apply to men in some aspects. But there's just so much information out there. And unfortunately, there's so many people out there, especially in the online space, claiming to be experts. I see lots of people that are like, I'm a hormone expert. I can help you with your hormones. And so it's really hard to know what to believe and who to trust. So my goal is to just keep giving you free information, teaching you, helping you to understand your body in a way that maybe no one else is helping you to. So without further ado, let's dive into this week's topic. So if you missed last week, go back and listen, but we talked about how the main hormone, the number one hormone that's causing your hormone imbalance, if you're thinking like, oh, okay, I think that happened to me all the time in private practice and family practice. I had women come in and go, I think my hormones are out of whack. It's my hormones that are the problem. And when we look at root cause through a functional medicine lens, and I do this with a test called the Dutch Plus, is a test that I use with my clients. That what we see often is that cortisol is the disruptor. Cortisol is it's the one hormone that's throwing off all your other hormones, and it's at the root of your hormone imbalance. So this week I want to talk about what exactly, if that is, the case, okay, cortisol is high, how is it affecting your other your other hormones, and how that could be showing up in your body. So, one thing that cortisol does is, so for one of the top complaints I hear is trouble losing weight, especially like the things that you were trying are no longer working. Well, this can be from hormonal shifts, like if you're entering into perimenopause and those hormones are changing. But if you are still cycling and that's not the case for you, I mean, really, they both can be overlapping and compounding with each other. But what we find is that high cortisol actually drives up blood sugar, and which drives up your insulin. So let me break that down. So cortisol, we have to think about, it's our stress hormone. It helps us to survive. So one of the things that it does, it helps release blood sugar into your bloodstream when you're in fight or flight, so that your body, has energy to do the things it needs to do. But what I find with many of my clients is that their blood sugar has been high for too long. And their blood sugar has been high. So then insulin is the other hormone that's released to help blood sugar get into the cells. Well, the problem is that our cortisol has been high like all the time because we're doing all the things, and we, never give ourselves a break, right? So cortisol has been high. So insulin is also high, and insulin is a fat storing hormone. So that's one way, and you might not think about those things. Those are hormones. Insulin is a hormone, but you might be thinking of, when you hear about hormone imbalance and how, cortisol disrupts your other hormones, you might be thinking of your sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, things like that. We'll get there. I also want to piggyback off of, if you're feeling like, okay, I can't lose weight like I used to, what's going on? What has changed? High cortisol can also lower your level of leptin. So leptin is the hormone that helps you to feel satisfied. So if you have lower leptin levels, you don't feel as satisfied when you eat, right? So then that can increase your cravings, help causing you just to feel more hungry and like you need to eat more, which of course can lead to weight gain. The other thing is that high cortisol can also cause leptin resistance. So not only is leptin low, but your leptin doesn't even work as well. So it's like double whammy there. Then related to leptin, you might have heard of the hormone called ghrelin. I've heard it pronounced other ways. I believe the correct way to pronounce it is ghrelin, but ghrelin is, so leptin and ghrelin are like the two hormones that make you feel satisfied or contribute to your appetite. So cortisol can increase your ghrelin level, which increases your appetite. So just thinking about how cortisol is disrupting all your other hormones. So that's three hormones that we talked about: insulin, leptin, and ghrelin, that are affected by these high cortisol levels that can lead to weight gain as a symptom of hormone imbalance. I'll tell you too, when your blood sugar is off, that also can lead to symptoms of fatigue. I see that in all of my patients. When we talk, we go through their initial questionnaire. A lot of them, I just don't have the energy like I used to. And we go through the questionnaire. I have them kind of rate their symptoms. We do their blood work, and we can see their insulin and their blood sugar levels are abnormal. And I'm talking about from a functional perspective. So if you went to your doctor, you got blood work done at Quest, LabCorp, something like that, they may say, hey, your lab work is normal, but we're talking about functional ranges, so optimal ranges of these hormones. Okay. So again, those hormone imbalances leading to weight gain and energy issues. But what about your other hormones? What about the estrogen, progesterone, testosterone? I will tell you, so high cortisol, if we think about it, so cortisol is released when we are in fight or flight. Okay. So that part of our nervous system is triggered. The sympathetic nervous system it was when we are in fight or flight. So think about it. If you're in fight or flight, if we think back, I always think back to like primitive humans, right? If they're in fight or flight, they're literally fighting or fleeing for their lives. That's not the time to have a baby. You're gonna be like, what are you talking about? Stick with me here. So it's not the time to, rest, be calm. So the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic. I always learned that as called the rest and digest, but some people also call it the breed and feed. And basically what happens is that high cortisol blocks ovulation. So we need to ovulate, obviously, to be fertile. And you're like, okay, well, I don't care about getting pregnant. So why does this, matter? I don't want to get pregnant. What we have to understand is that where our progesterone, we need progesterone. Progesterone is a very beneficial hormone for us. When we don't ovulate, we do not get progesterone. So progesterone actually comes from when we ovulate, a follicle releases an egg, and then that follicle turns into something called the corpus luteum. And that is where progesterone is produced from. So if we have high cortisol blocking ovulation, we don't get that follicle release of egg, we don't get the corpus luteum and progesterone. Okay. So symptoms of low progesterone can be mood swings, really difficult. Like progesterone is I'm giving you TMI. Progesterone is a precursor to something called GABA, but GABA is a very calming neurotransmitter. So low progesterone levels can cause issues with sleeping, mood disturbances where you're feeling more anxious, things of that nature. So again, high cortisol is the disruptor here and messing up ovulation, lowering progesterone. And then what I see in a lot of my clients, these are, driven, ambitious women, often working moms, is that they may be into what's, some people might call adrenal fatigue. So their cortisol has been high for a long period of time, but now their cortisol starts getting irregular. It can be high when it's supposed to be low and low when it's supposed to be high. But then if they keep going and their body can't keep up, they get into like full burnout, full adrenal fatigue, or HPA dysfunction. And this is when cortisol is actually low all day long. This is important because the adrenals, so the adrenals are where your cortisol comes from. So if your adrenals are no longer producing cortisol because of this adrenal fatigue, burnout, HPA dysfunction, whatever you want to call it, adrenal exhaustion, the adrenals aren't just not making cortisol, they're also not making a ton of other chemicals and hormones as well. One of the big ones is pregnenolone, and another one is DHEA. And these hormones are precursors to things like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. So what I see in not every, but a good number of my clients, is that when they're in this full burnout stage, like they can be in their 30s and look like they have like menopausal levels of their hormones of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone because their adrenals are so depleted and I shouldn't say depleted, but their adrenals aren't putting out the normal levels of hormones. And because of that, their sex hormones are really low. So what kind of symptoms are going to show up like this? This can be, issues with your periods. Women sometimes come to me because they are struggling to get pregnant. So this could be an issue with fertility. This could be the energy, the weight gain, trouble sleeping, like heavy periods or really irregular periods, irregular cycles, things of that nature. Really low libido. I think that's honestly very common. Is that women like their and maybe like they're like, yeah, it used to be up and now it's not. So low libido can happen with these hormonal changes. So again, that high cortisol is the disruptor. And then the other one I want to point out is that high cortisol also inhibits your thyroid hormone, or thyroid hormones, I should say. There's multiple thyroid hormones, and high cortisol does impact those. So I would hear a lot of times in family practice, women would come to me, they're like, okay, I'm pretty sure my hormones are off and I think it's my thyroid. I want to get my thyroid checked. That's not wrong thinking, but what we're missing is that often the adrenals and this high cortisol or this abnormal cortisol is actually the root cause. It can be contributing to the abnormal thyroid hormones. But often in the conventional medicine setting, we're just checking the thyroid and then treating the thyroid and not actually treating the root cause. Okay. I laid a lot on you guys today, but again, I'm trying to make these little short, quick, teachable episodes so you can go and watch. We're going to be sticking with hormones for a while. You can go and listen to each one and they're going to make sense and play off one another. So if this was super helpful to you, if you got a lot out of this, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm just at Lori Aikman. I'd love it if you took a screenshot of watching this episode and tag me. And also, if you've not left us a review on Apple, on iTunes, or what is it, Apple Podcasts. I would love for you to do that because that helps to make the podcast more visible, more searchable, so that more women who need to hear this information can find the podcast. So, all right. I will see you guys. I'm losing my voice now, so it's a great time to end. I will see you guys in the next episode.